buildings knew about it. There is no proof. There's no scientific proof. So, those things, measure yourself. Yeah, right. Those lines, it's easy to put them in and squeeze them in, it looks like that. In reality, they will be more than a meter wide, those lines, when they put it to real scale. This, there's nothing proof of this. This is actually a nice, most beautiful thing. It is not. The Knot shell is not the golden ratio for the Fibonacci sequence. It's made up. It's another algorithm. Yes, Le Corbusier used it, and it's one of the only ones we know about. The same as with the rule of third, the rule of the golden section, the rule of third, or what you call the rule of thumb. And you have it on your camera, and they take pictures to help you guide to make pictures. You have even unbelievable apps to make it work for you, but there's no scientific proof. When they asked the 200 top photographers about that, they were kind of puzzled. Yeah, I think I know somebody who used it. So why would you use something if it's totally not, you can use it, but there's nothing proven about it. So all those courses, learning the compositing courses in school, skip that chapter. Okay. So well, let's talk about scientific work and things that really work for us. The perspective. That worked. We know about that. Absolute and relative size information on the retina one eye. Okay. On the left side, you see the human being. So that's absolute size. I don't know actually. You don't know exactly the exact same height of a person, exactly how wide he is. But what we know is that the same size projected further away. That makes sense. We know the size, and it's how we place it. And also objects like here, absolute size, relative size and absolute size here. This I don't know the size actually, but when it's smaller done, I perceive it as further. There's no, it's scientific, everybody will agree. If you say, no, that's bigger, well, then you have a huge problem. Okay. And the relative size, if two objects, if you know if two objects with about, you know the size, relative, you know the size, but the absolute size is unknown, and then you see it further, you perceive it as further. The Romans knew that already. This dome. When you stand on it, you feel like, wow, how did they do it? It doesn't look flat, you feel the shape. And that's what you want also in room scale VR and AR, that you really understand the shapes when you look at it. Look at this. I don't know if it's actually a drawing or a painting, but where is that? Texas. Because of purely perspective, you start to see already depth. You start to feel it as a dome. Pure about perspective reasons. But they were very smart with the absolute and relative size. Okay. When we look at the dome, and we take one square out, what do you see now? Square. Okay. This is one eye information. There's no two less. Now what we do, we put the thing in there. What do you start to see?
That frame.
Frame. Depth. It's the exact same object, scale it down. You perceive it as deeper, it's flat. In the dome it's a little bit depth, but it's a little bit more scaled. So in the dome you start to perceive it as further than it is. And that's how they built it. Feeling from the dome. Exactly the same. They put more one in and you see more depth. That's why it's so important to create really good monetary input cues in your VR and AR so your two eyes can bring it out. Don't rely just because it's two eyes. Right. This is a pure example from that. Now, if you're going to look at some older buildings and neoclassicism lacks it sometimes. But when you look at some neoclassicism buildings where you have a roof, what they do is they actually scale the inner part a little bit more, exaggerated here, because that will even create more depth. Okay, I took too far. Anybody knows this?
Versailles?
Versailles. Nobody else knows it? No. Anybody been to Versailles? Okay. I'm going to explain you a little bit about the history so you understand why it is built. Okay. I hope it's not too boring, but afterwards I hope you're going to use that information to build your AR, VR apps better. It's Versailles. Why was Versailles built? Why?
The king's son, the Sun King.
Yeah, but why did he build it?
To have his court around him.
He was jealous of the other palace.
Jealous of Fulvicon, the Minister of Finance, had built a bigger palace than him. He was that jealous, so what he did?
The male ego.
He had went over, took his wife to the palace, put him in prison. And then he built Versailles. Okay. So, he made it very clear to his architect in Loci, I want this place to look perfect for me. When people look from outside to me, they see the greatest palace ever. And Loci achieved it. I'm gonna simplify it because if you go really in depth, then it's a little bit more complicated to do it. But what he wanted to achieve was this: if this is the top of the bus stand, the water thing, okay? In perspective, you see this, correct?
Yep.
But actually, he creates an illusion that the back was wider. When the back is wider, in perspective, it puts on my eye a perfect rectangle. And you're saying, wow, beautiful, perfect balance. Now what do you see from the other side? Actually the opposite. You see those lines. That perceives it as a further perspective. So when you say, oh, that's the palace. I'm going to have a big palace. If you stand in front of that building, exactly like in the middle in the front, you have exactly the same effect. They actually build it with an arch. Because the perspective, it brings it back up, and it looks perfect square on the eye. But it's not. So how can you call the golden ratio perfect square if it's fully perspective distorted to give you a perfect illusion? Think about what you can do in AR and VR to create a perfect shape. The distance between the pillars are far away, because it brings it closer on the eye to its perspective. Even our friend Steve Jobs knew that. The back is 1 millimeter wider, so when you look at it, it makes it on the eye a perfect cube. Other things that's very important. Hey, the way that light hits, hits an object and reflects off those surfaces, that information gives you so much monitor input and information, shadow. We don't have to always see all the objects to understand what's going on. Shadow like this, it gives us also information. Here on the bridge, it gives the better the shape out. That's why that opening was there. It creates a darkness. Even occlusion for the people who do 3D. Create a nice occlusion shadow, and that brings that shape even more out. I'm going to skip this, I don't know why. Okay. But shadow is super important. Okay. When you look at those pillars, you have to understand that at a certain point when you go further away, that your left eye and your right eye see the same. Because it's far away. So then, in AR and VR, you can only rely on a monoclear input, on one eye information to still feel 3D. There's no other way. When I have pillars like that, they don't give me much information. They will look very fast flat when you walk back. Why do pillars like this and this really stand up in 3D? It's really simple. It's a thought process and understanding light that gives you information of your monoclear input. A little bit shadow, more shadow, more shadow, more shadow, more shadow. And that creates you for your monoclear input a 3D shape. So if you have that on top of close and closer, you're still going to have always, if you walk far away, you still feel it 3D. When you walk close by, the monoclear and the two eyes bring it as a wow, really bring it out of effect. Boring or?
No, awesome.
Callewaert is a very known understanding. How light reflects, bounces off to create those shapes, to feel the structure of the building. That's why in Unity, use the features light baking, real-time illumination, avid occlusion, light baking. Use that. They are there for you to bring out the shape. And they're not just to make it. No, maybe you have heard of shadow stereoscopy. That means the picture on the left eye and the right eye is the same. But the shadow is different. And if the shadow is different, and that is not a monoclear input, that's because you have two eyes. Right? The two eyes, they are information, it looks the same, but an object is really far away, but the shadow is a little bit different. And that gives me the information of still 3D. When you would do that in VR, you're going to see 3D. You're not going to see flat. Okay, movement. We talked before that if you walk around, you can better understand the space. But it's very complicated in VR. There's 40 people, 50 get nauseated when I use a joystick and then move forward. Because your brain is saying, but your body is telling you standing still, but your brain, hey, you're moving forward. Okay. Some people don't have a problem with it. Okay. So, it is not a solution that we can actually use for everybody. Eh? We have problem with acceleration, strafing, turning, all those things make it very complicated. Okay. I'm not going to go into the numbers tonight, otherwise everybody will be asleep with me. Okay. But the basic is if you make rooms VR or you do AR and you want to walk around very fast with a joystick, and keep your speeds realistic. Don't touch the camera. You don't control it anymore. It's the player who fully controls it. The consumer uses it. If you control it in a game, like for a cutscene with the camera flies through, you make the person sick. No, I write here no perceived acceleration. Okay. What we talk a lot about is acceleration and slowing down. You get sick. Anybody had that experience? Only 2 people get sick. The rest is okay. No, I write here perceived, and the reason it's perceived is why this. Do you know how on the ranch in the past, or at the castle when the horse runs to the castle, why they slow down? What's that?
They don't want to run into the castle.
But they slow down automatically. When
as soon as their eyes look separately so they can't tell the gap in front of the castle.
They have navigation baking.
when it's chariot, I don't say that like the horses and they're running with forward, and I run into the castle with the guy, and automatically even the guy is stopping the horses. Why is that? Okay, when you drive on a highway and you come to an intersection, how come that even without telling to slow down, you start to slow down? It's really simple. The distance between the trees they planted to the house, from the beginning of the road to the house, the distance is each time a bit shorter made. Go to an old ranch, you're going to see that. So what happens is, if the horse comes up, it's perceived acceleration, they slow down. So in VR, it's something you also can think, how can I use, why is it perceived versus real? Okay. So I'm teaching you American history how to slow down the horse. Wow. If there's traffic, do it very slow. Humans don't do it fast. Never. So do it slow. So the conclusion is that it's not working for everybody, this. So let's look at some alternatives that where we don't use really motion and rotation to move forward. Okay. One, the rotation is really difficult because when I rotate in the game, when I rotate not my body, but just my joystick, I get very fast sick. So one of the techniques I know talking about is trigger rotation. It's click and you jump right away to that rotation. Right, it gets you less sick. Click, click, and there, click. Now another one that you can use is snap rotation. So you click, and you snap to a certain rotation, and then your body looks in that direction. You're not going to get sick from that. Okay. Now backwards. No, moving forward. One thing that we start to see now is a lot is teleportation. You look with your to a certain area, and you confirm it, and you go straight there. You can find nice examples from Oculus, how they talk about teleportation. Here's a nice example, and look how they quickly do it. They also do a blink. You look to a certain area, and you click, and you confirm your rotation, and then you click at it, and you blink, and you go there. Okay. This is all done by a company, Dreams. All that research is very phenomenal what they do. Okay. Now another one is, this is what that's what I like. The problem is when you do teleportation, you don't build the space. Somebody's on Slack. Okay. So, I know. So, when you walk, I understand. The problem is if I do teleportation, I close my eyes, and I'm here, right? I don't see the space. Okay. So, Dreams did a research, and that was really interesting with a whole test group. You look at a certain area, you confirm it, and go very fast to it. What happens when you do that? You still have 2, 3, 4 frames to build a space, but you don't get sick. Because you do it in less than 1.5 seconds, you're not going to get sick. That was really comfortable for all the test people who did it. Yeah? And that's how it worked. Did it show you? Yeah. Okay, okay. I'm going to wrap it up. I think I covered enough about molecular and things like that. But of course, there's always buildings that who are always phenomenal, that we always feel connected to it. Yeah. And I hope that you're going to study a little bit architecture and read about it. And understand that you have to watch out, like versus all the science versus the non-science. Okay. No, I always like to do a little bit fun things too. Anyone knows this building? Charles Winnie McIntosh, Arts and Craft College, Manchester. Check it out, amazing. If you look at these buildings, you're going to feel what he talked about is follies. And you should read about it and the beliefs and mythical things. And he tries to always encapsulate in his buildings. And you're going to think, oh, what's going on? Who's looking at me? Walt Disney, I think. Ben Gary, Canadian, not American. Or we place with the light and the shadows to fully understand the shapes.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah, if you don't know that, then he's problem.
Chapelle de Ronchamp.
Yeah. No, these are the French people.
Chapelle de Ronchamp.
There's two.
What?
There's two. Yeah, there's a copy in China. Okay.
Did they copy that, John?
Yes, there's a copy, yeah. Now, question. Where do the shapes come from?
Fibonacci, no.
Shapes are American. Nobody knows? Josephine Baker. The thighs and the hips of Josephine Baker.
Oh wow.
He met her on a cruise, used her body as a shapes, made a church for the French Catholic Church. They're not too happy about that one. Okay. Okay. So, vegan, study buildings, but understand that mononuclear input gives you a lot of information. More than having two eyes to see and perceive the depth. Some buildings, we talk about the golden ratio, but don't forget, this building was actually for sales for 100 years, nobody cared about it, it was used as a horse barn. So, but this, if you have the chance, read about it. Please skip the chapter about the golden ratio. Okay? But when you're going to read about it, there is so much perspective distortion used in this building. And one of the other things, the columns are not built straight. The columns are built a little bit wider on the top because perspective brings it down and you see this perfect column. Some people say this is the golden ratio and the angle, the golden angle that's used. Research, also all the research have nicely shown that the angle is perfectly because when it was a nice smooth building, sand came up, that's the angle that sand goes back down. So believe what you want to believe. But one thing is that when it's really nice polished, this building gives a floating effect. Okay. Movement is super important. You decide, you play how to direct him to move or not. But be very smart how you direct him or her, and also they don't get the person sick. Use light and shadow. Understand it. Talk to photographers, talk to composition. So my two points of advice is this. When you make your VR app, or your VR experiences, or AR, test it with one eye. If you don't have your clues to understand the depth with one eye, you can ignore more than 60% how you see 3D. If you move around, really think how you move around so the person doesn't get sick. Okay. So I want to thank you, Callewaert. I work in the Institute Director. I didn't want to do a technical talk because I think everybody has heard of draw calls, optimization, GPU, CPU, of the yin yang. I have enough sometimes about it. So that's why I want to give you another presentation, something totally different. I hope you enjoyed it. But thank you for coming out. But one thing I'm going to do, like here, is a picture. And take a, you don't mind if I take a picture?
No.
No, you're going to put it on hot and not hot?
Where are we gonna put it?
1, 2, 3. We're going to do that quick. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. But also, I want to quickly introduce you to Ashley. Yeah. Why? Because you're so important. Ashley just joined us and I'm super excited. Explain who you are. No? I can.
No.
Work with.
Hi everyone, my name's Ashley. I recently joined Unity as part of their evangelism and events team. I know a lot of you here from the local New York community. I was based here for a while working with IndieCade and Global Game Jam for some time, and now I'm with Unity over in San Francisco. I miss New York so much, but I'm looking forward to coming over to many events here and seeing you all again and again for Unity events. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. So if you want events and visit, email her, not me. So there's also here a link that you can fill in. That's a survey, and if you fill it in, then you're going to get in a few days a link with this presentation, and you can download the PowerPoint. And there's also all the presentations on there with movie files that you can use. But I want to extremely thank you for coming out. I will stay around here and chat a bit. But also I want to thank Tracy for always allowing to abuse the space here. Thank you. Yeah, you're gonna. I'm dumb. Yeah, I know there's somebody after me. So.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you, Carl. We cannot, we're forever in your gratitude. I'm going to give away some of my takeaways from this. First and foremost, we are just privileged to have this community, so Unity already makes this fantastic software, really this platform for creating 3D worlds on every hardware known to man. But then they do something else. They go the extra mile. They create the community. They have a division, not just a division to do like the future tech and the new API releases and this and that. They have a division of evangelism. Oh, and please, before you go, Carl. Okay, please, yes, it is quite hot. We have raised the body heat level to where the fire department may come here just for the hotness. So if we're talking about hot or not hot, I think this is hot, right? But yeah, really, this is the most epic weekend. Before you all leave, let's get a show of hands. I wonder if this is still running. Is it still running? Jesus. All right. Thank you all for watching. This has been an episode of Build and Run. Build-run.com is where you'll find these 360 episodes of a real VR podcast for Unity developers. This and every episode is brought to you by VRVU.com, full-service VR production. Thank you for watching.